When Hungary hit Samsung with tax hikes and environmental regulations. What happened next was beyond imagination.
Is the country really going to collapse just because one Korean factory leaves?
Hungarian officials sneered. They doubled the taxes, cut factory operation rates in half, and slapped a 5 billion point fine. It was arrogance, like saying,
"If a small Asian company dares to challenge us, we'll show them who's boss."
but when Samsung actually left, the nightmare began.
What did we do wrong? We worked hard and honestly for 15 years.
Hungary learned a harsh lesson after underestimating a small country and facing economic collapse. Now, I'm going to reveal the full story. I'm Peter Kovacs. I used to be the Deputy Minister of Finance in Hungary. Now, I'm just an old man full of regrets. Even now, the nightmare of that day is vivid in my mind, watching 30,000 people thrown onto the streets overnight, a whole city dying, and realizing it all started with my arrogance. Despair. It all started that fateful morning last fall.
Deputy Minister, it's urgent.
The secretary burst through the door, out of breath. I almost spilled my coffee.
What's going on?
There's an emergency meeting to review the investment area, first thing this morning. In 10 minutes.
Who called it all of a sudden?
Deputy Minister Velas.
The moment I heard that name, I had a bad feeling. When I entered the meeting room, it was already packed with high-ranking officials. Everyone looked fired up, like a pack of hyenas spotting their prey.
You're late, Peter, Velas sneered.
Velas sneered. There was a mountain of documents piled on the table.
What the hell is this about? Samsung's causing trouble again.
Velas slammed the papers down. The sound echoed like gunfire.
What now?
They're demanding more infrastructure support and an extension on tax cuts.
A tiny country with just 50 million people. And their company had the nerve to do this? Murmurs of anger spread through the room.
I can't believe this. Who do they think they are? We have to put them in their place immediately.
I was hurt too. How dare they act like that? You want demands? Hold on. Deputy Foreign Minister Rio just raised his hand. Still, Samsung is a major player in our economy, Rio said sharply. Whose side are you on? Hungary's? Or Korea's? But 30,000 jobs are at stake, Baraz scoffed. Chinese company CATL is ready to move in immediately. They said they'd hire 50,000 people. Really? I asked, surprised. I checked myself. Baraz's eyes glinted strangely. Last night. No, that's not. Important Director Terma from the Environmental Department jumped in perfect timing. Activist groups keep protesting, they say. Kids are getting sick because of the battery plant. How bad is it? Someone asked. Well, Terma hesitated. There's no concrete proof. But public opinion is definitely turning against us. That's enough. Baraz clenched his fist. Okay, here's my proposal. First, remove Gwesel from the list of investment zones. The room went silent for a moment. Then the finance director started crunching numbers. Local taxes would automatically double, and that's exactly the point. Baraz shouted, "We're basically getting something for nothing." Perfect. But actually, it was Mr. Rio who pushed Samsung out again.
We're not pushing them out, Velas said slyly. We're just creating a level playing field. If Koreans can't handle it fairly, that's on us.
Velas said slyly. The mood shifted fast. Everyone sided with Velas. What can a country with a GDP barely hitting $2 trillion do? We're the key players moving forward. Let's make this clear once and for all. I got caught up in the vibe too. Velas was right. We can't keep being dragged around by small countries' companies forever. Exactly, Peter. Velas smiled with satisfaction.
All right, let's vote.
Hands went up one by one in favor. Only Mr. Rio held out, but in the end, he raised his hand too. It was unanimous. Great. Velas stood up.
Now it's time to show the Koreans just how great Hungary really is. After the meeting, when we stepped into the hallway, Mr. Rio grabbed Jeppa's arm. Peter, are you sure about this? What's wrong? Scared? Really scared of Samsung?
When I left, I was totally confident. There was no way I'd just walk away from an investment I'd put 20 years into. That was just bravado, pure bravado. But in Rio's eyes, I could see nothing but worry. Peter, don't you think Balaz has been acting weird lately? Weird how? He's been talking about China way too much. At that point, Rio and I stopped the conversation. Don't overthink it, we're going to win. Back home, I poured some wine and bragged to my wife. I pulled off something big today. We made it clear who we are to those Korean companies. Her face darkened. Honey, I've heard Samsung's a good company. Good company? They're just parasites in our country, only after special favors. That night, I was riding high on a wave of victory. A week later, Samsung asked for a meeting, but I purposely avoided it. Sir, Samsung has contacted us 5 times now, and we're just ignoring them. We need to show them who's boss. My assistant hesitated before speaking. But sir, there's a weird rumor going around. What rumor? There's gossip that you've been having secret meetings with Chinese folks lately. I snapped. Cut the crap. Don't spread useless nonsense. But that night, as I looked out the window, a sudden wave of unease hit me. The lights from the Samsung factory in the distance looked dimmer than usual. No way, it can't be. They wouldn't just throw away 20 years of investment. But then, I got a text on my phone. The sender was unknown. It said, something interesting is about to happen. Get ready. I got chills. Who could have sent this? And what was going to happen? At the time, I had no idea we were already caught in a massive trap. And the person who set it up was right inside our own circle. A few days later, just as expected, things started to unfold. Sir, the tax hike bill passed unexpectedly in Fast County. My assistant handed me the report. It said the local business tax was going up from 1% to 2%. Good, just as planned. But then something unexpected happened. Mayor Zoltan pushed back. Peter, what the hell is this? Zoltan stormed into my office, his face flushed red. I don't know what you mean, Mayor, I said. Doubling the tax on Samsung? Are you crazy? Do you even know how our city's economy works? This is a fair move to protect the environment. The citizens want it too. Citizens? Which citizens are you talking about? The 15,000 people working at Samsung? Zoltan's voice trembled, but I was firm. Mayor, you have to think long-term. Hungary can't keep being dragged around by foreign companies forever. Peter, when was the last time you came to Győr? Half our citizens are directly or indirectly connected to Samsung. That's the problem. We rely too much on one company. Zoltan clenched his fist. You don't understand what you're doing. This isn't just about taxes. After the mayor stormed out angry, I actually felt good. Things were going according to plan. That afternoon, we finally got a meeting set up with Samsung. The man from Korea was Park Sang-mul. Unlike what I expected, he seemed calm. Nice to meet you, Deputy Minister Peter. We shook hands, and I could feel the tension in his grip. Long time no see. You've been waiting, right? I've been busy with my schedule. I get it. Thanks for making time despite your busy day. You were polite, but your eyes were sharp. Deputy Minister Peter, do you know how much we've contributed to Hungary? Of course I do. But times have changed. Environmental regulations are getting stricter now. So, you're saying taxes are going to double? Park's gaze sharpened even more. We didn't decide that. It's the local government's authority. You know that too, don't you? Silence fell as no one said whose idea it was. Park pulled out some documents. Last year alone, we paid 200 billion points in taxes. We created 30,000 jobs. And invested 50 billion points just in R&D. That's impressive. And that's not all. We collaborate with Hungarian universities, training 200 engineers every year. Scholarships alone are 5 billion points. These were things I didn't know. But still, I can't accept it. Rules are rules. Rules? Park frowned deeply. German companies in the same area still pay only 0.5%. Let's be honest, Vice Minister. This is targeted taxation. Are you really ready for everything that comes with this? Is this a threat? I'm just telling you the facts. You better drop it. Manager Park handed me his business card one last time. Get in touch within a week. After that, we might have to consider other options. After he left, I paused to think. But it was already underway. That night, I prepared a press briefing. We're going to fix the excessive perks given to foreign companies. This is a move for fair competition. The PR officer whispered beside me, Vice Minister, isn't that a bit too blunt? No, we have to be clear. We need to show we're not a pushover anymore. The next day, the front pages were flooded with my statement. Hungarian government announces end to Samsung's special privileges. Tighter regulations on battery plants for environmental protection, citizens cheer enthusiastically. But then something strange started happening. Environmental groups, usually quiet, suddenly became very active. Get the battery plant out. Protect our children's future. Keep it clean. Turn the air around. Protesters have gathered in front of the Samsung factory. We weren't sure who organized it, but it worked in our favor. Look, these are the voices of the people. Velas was pleased. The timing is perfect. Who organized this? Not sure. Maybe people are just becoming more aware? That's when the secretary came in. Deputy Minister, the head of the environmental group Green Hungary, has requested a meeting. Green Hungary, where was that? It's a new organization formed last year. They've been very active lately. When we met, the activist was young and looked so polished it felt a bit off. We fully support the government's decision. The environmental damage from the battery factory is serious. Do you have concrete evidence? Of course. We plan to release it to the media soon. As he left, he said something strange: the government is making the right choice for a bigger future. A bigger future? I wondered what he meant but didn't think much of it at the time. Park Sang-moo's warning kept echoing in my mind. Are we really ready to protect 30,000 jobs? But the arrow had already left the bowstring. There was no turning back. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Director, urgent news. The secretary came rushing in out of breath. We received a tip that the Samsung factory had been operating illegally for 5 months. What? I was shocked too. We never saw this coming. An anonymous whistleblower sent documents related to the media. They said the factory kept running even after the environmental permit expired. My mind went blank for a moment. This wasn't part of our plan. But who could have had this information? Did you find out who the tipster was? They're anonymous. Tracking them down is impossible. It was strange, but a chance is a chance. Get an investigation team together immediately. We need a thorough probe. Who should lead the team? Let's put Director Eo from the environmental department in charge. He's the toughest guy we have. That afternoon, the media went berserk. Samsung caught running illegal operations. Korean companies losing their sense of compliance. What has the government been doing? Possible unauthorized discharge of hazardous materials for 5 months. Telex, NEP Sabadshah, Index, and other major outlets covered the story. The media all jumped on it as the front page headline. It happened so fast and was so well coordinated, it actually felt a bit off. This is way too organized, I muttered to myself. They sent out an emergency investigation team. The team leader, Director Neo-ji, was usually pretty critical of Samsung. Director Neo-ji, make sure you investigate thoroughly. Follow the law and the rules, don't worry. We'll start by going after the deputy minister. His eyes lit up. It was like he'd been waiting for this. By the time the team got to the factory, reporters were already swarming the place. Who tipped off the media? Neo-ji wondered, but it was already underway. A week later, the investigation report came in. Deputy Minister, it's confirmed. From last summer through fall, they operated for 5 months without environmental permits. Seriously? Yeah, the permit renewal process got delayed, but they just kept the factory running. To be honest, I already knew. This kind of thing was common in Hungary. If the paperwork was slow, you just keep running and get approval later. What about the other factories? Neo-ji hesitated. Actually, there are quite a few similar cases. But shouldn't we be focusing on Samsung right now? The media's paying attention, and I'm stuck in a dilemma. To be fair, we should investigate all the factories, but let's deal with Samsung first. The rest can wait. A few days later, Samsung requested an urgent meeting. This time, Park, the executive director, came along with the head of the legal team. Deputy Minister, this is clearly a targeted investigation, Park said, his voice full of anger. Targeted? Isn't it true that the law was broken? You know as well as I do that all factories in Hungary operate like this. The government is responsible for administrative delays, so why are we the only ones being singled out? The law is the law, the deputy minister replied. Then the legal team leader pulled out some documents. What's this? A list of factories whose environmental permits expired during the same period. 3 German, 2 French, 1 Japanese, 12 factories in total, all in the same situation. But no one made a fuss. So why are we the target? I had no response. It was the truth. Let's be honest, Deputy Minister. This is an attack aimed at Samsung. Someone's doing this on purpose. We tipped them off, and the media acted like they were ready for it. What do you mean conspiracy theory? It's not a conspiracy theory. The Korean government is watching this closely. The embassy sent an official notice. Park Sang-moo warned us in a low voice. There's only so much we can tolerate. If this keeps up, we'll have no choice but to take other measures. What does that mean? Well, Poland and the Czech Republic said they'd welcome us. No strings attached. Hearing that really shook me. Wait a minute, are we seriously considering moving? The team already went on site to check things out. Park Sang-moo stood up and gave a final warning. We're giving you 1 week. Make a smart choice. After they left, I was lost in thought. But the media was already buzzing. The next day, the government made an official announcement: Samsung hit with a 5 billion point fine, considering additional sanctions, no exceptions. Right after the announcement, Samsung's stock plummeted. Korean media covered the story big time. Hungarian government, Samsung's ambitions, rising controversy over targeted investigations. But then, something strange happened. It happened again. The environmental groups, like they were all coordinated, released a joint statement. This is just the beginning. Samsung, get out of Hungary. We'll fight to the very end. It was way too organized. The banners and signs looked professionally made. Have the secretaries look into these environmental groups. What should we check? Where their funding comes from. The backgrounds of the key people. Something's off. Got it. But before we even got the results, things got worse. A week later, an even bigger problem popped up. Sir, the residents have filed a class action lawsuit. They're demanding compensation for the noise pollution. Apparently, Green Hungary is leading it and even providing lawyers. How much are they asking for? 10 billion forints. What? That was a huge amount. They were demanding compensation for 5 years' worth of damages all at once. That night, I came home and looked out the window, thinking maybe we'd gone too far. My wife asked me worriedly, "Honey, I've been seeing news about the Samsung issue getting serious lately." "It's temporary," I said. "It'll be resolved soon." But there was no confidence in their voice. The next morning, I heard shocking news. Deputy Minister, Samsung has cut their factory operation rate by 30%. They've already started sending employees home early and stopped weekend shifts. This was a serious warning sign. But we didn't back down. If anything, we pushed even harder. Once the residents' lawsuit kicked off, things went completely out of control. "Deputy Minister, I got a call from an unexpected source." The secretary reported it with a tense expression. "What did they say?" "They're keeping a close eye on environmental issues at the Hungarian battery plant. They might even send an investigation team." This was exactly what we wanted. Any further intervention would put even more pressure on Samsung. "Good. Tell them to order a thorough review of the environmental impact assessment. Make it strict. A full re-evaluation. Yeah, go back to square one and review all the permits from the beginning." A few days later, the environmental authorities dropped a bombshell on Samsung: a full environmental impact reassessment, a shutdown order during the evaluation period. Limiting factory operation to 50%, mandatory real-time monitoring of all emissions in effect. This was practically shutting down the factory. It was basically an order to stop halfway. Samsung's reaction was immediate. "Deputy Minister Peter, this has crossed the line." This time, someone from the Korean branch came all the way here in person. Someone way higher up than Executive Director Park. When the senior executive director walked into the meeting room, his expression was ice cold. "Director, you've come a long way." "Deputy Minister, this isn't the time for jokes. Limiting the factory's operation rate? Does that even make sense? It's an unavoidable measure for environmental protection." The environmental protection senior executive sneered. "Then why is it only our factory being targeted? What about the German chemical plant next door? We plan to proceed step by step." "Don't lie. If this isn't targeted regulation, then what is?" The atmosphere turned tense. The senior executive pulled out a tablet and showed it. "Do you know what this is?" "What?" "An official investment restriction notice from the Polish government. If we move our entire plant there, they offer a 10-year tax exemption." My heart sank. And this is the Czech government's restriction. They're offering free land and even building the infrastructure. So, Deputy Minister, this is your final warning. We're running a business too. There's no reason to stay in Hungary if we're losing money. That's a threat. No, it's just the reality. Executive Director Choi stood up. "I'll give you 1 week. Handle all the sanctions within that time. If you don't, we're leaving." Completely. As he walked out the door, he glanced back. "Just so you know, we've already planned to move key equipment. Once the decision's made, we can pull it off within a month." "Wait, I called you in urgently. Are you really thinking about leaving?" "That's up to the Vice Minister." Watching Executive Director Choi leave the meeting room, I felt real fear for the first time. That night, I had an emergency meeting with Baraz. "Do you really think they'll leave? Is this just a bluff?" "It's a bluff," Baraz said confidently. "But Poland actually offered those terms. Still, think about how much we've already invested. We can't just abandon the factory, buildings, equipment, and staff." "Don't worry. I've got some info I confirmed." Baraz lowered his voice. "What's going on?" "CATL from China says they're interested in us. They're ready to step in as soon as Samsung leaves." I actually got contacted directly. They're offering better investment terms than Samsung. That made me feel a bit relieved. But something still felt off. "Hey Bellas, don't you think these environmental groups are acting way too coordinated?" "So what? That actually works in our favor. Feels like someone's backing them behind the scenes." "Peter, don't worry about stuff like that. The important thing is we're winning." Next week, the protests by the environmental groups reached their peak. "Chamshung, leave Hungary. Give us clean air back. Protect our children's future." The protesters blocked the factory's main gate. Employees had a hard time getting to and from work. But it was really strange. The banners and slogans looked way too professional. "Green Hungary for a clean future, Battery Factory Eno, Green Energy YS." They even had banners in English and Chinese. "Secretary, how's the investigation into the environmental groups coming along?" "It's kind of weird." "Weird how?" "Most of the funding for Green Hungary. It came from overseas, through accounts in Hong Kong and Singapore. Someone abroad is sponsoring it, but it's hard to trace. It went through multiple steps before arriving, and I suddenly felt really uneasy. It felt like there was some bigger scheme behind it. Then the media opened fire again. There were speculative articles about things like forced labor, toxic substances, unauthorized releases, employee safety accidents, cover-ups, a surge in cancer patients over 5 years, and supposed links to Samsung, but none of it was confirmed. Still, public opinion had already turned against Samsung. "Deputy Minister, the poll results are in." The PR officer reported. "What do you think?" 65% of citizens support strengthening Samsung's curriculum. "See? The public wants it." But something felt off. When I looked at the survey questions, they were way too leading. Then I noticed something strange. Deputy Minister, I analyzed recent media reports. The PR officer reported again. Articles are coming out simultaneously at specific times 9 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. It's like someone is coordinating it. What does that mean? I don't know, but it's way too organized. And the content of the articles too. The same phrase kept repeating and I got chills down my spine. Could there be some other force at work that we don't know about? That evening, on my way home, I passed by the Samsung factory. Usually, it was brightly lit at this time, but that night it was dark. There were hardly any cars in the parking lot either. Were they really getting ready to leave? A wave of anxiety hit me, but it felt like we had already reached a point of no return. A week later, the crucial moment came. The deputy minister said Samsung called a meeting. The secretary rushed in, pale as a ghost. Apparently, the Korean headquarters held an emergency board meeting. They were considering pulling out of the Hungarian business. At that moment, everything became real. We realized we'd come way too far. But it was already too late. The day had truly arrived. Friday, 9 a.m. That was the longest, darkest day of my life. Deputy Minister, Samsung's made an official announcement, the secretary said, her voice trembling. My hands shook so much I nearly dropped my coffee cup. What did they say? Complete withdrawal from the Hungarian factory. In phases. Not just pulling out, a complete withdrawal. I was suspicious at first. What I never thought would happen actually did. Every channel on TV was broadcasting breaking news. Samsung SDI announced a full withdrawal from Hungary, citing concerns over tech security and worsening business conditions as the main reasons. There were fears of massive layoffs affecting 30,000 people, a big hit to Europe's electric car battery supply chain. It was like a bolt from the blue. Not a partial pullout, but a total one. I read the statement carefully. They said ongoing regulatory pressure and an unpredictable business environment made it impossible to continue operations in Hungary. All production facilities will be moved to a new plant in Poland. 30 minutes later, an emergency call came from the Prime Minister's office. On the way to the intelligence building, my phone kept ringing nonstop. Deputy Minister, what's going on? Are they really leaving? What's going to happen to our company? Those were desperate voices from partner companies. But I had no answers either. When we got to the Prime Minister's office, the ministers were already gathered. The atmosphere felt like a funeral. Peter, what the hell is going on? The Prime Minister yelled. I've never seen anything like that before. Even I didn't expect it. No way, seriously? No way, 30,000 people took to the streets, and the Prime Minister's telling us to calm down? The Minister of Economy said, we need to come up with a plan first. A plan? What plan? The Prime Minister slammed his desk. We've already announced it, how the hell are we supposed to stop this? Patience and negotiation, someone said. Negotiation? Do you know what we've been doing all this time? Raising taxes, slapping fines, shutting down half the factories. A heavy silence fell over the room. Then the foreign minister spoke up. The Korean ambassador has requested a meeting. It was a very serious tone. What did they say? They officially protested against the discriminatory treatment of Korean companies. Damn it, the Prime Minister was tearing his hair out. Form a task force immediately. We have to hold on to Samsung, no matter what it takes. But it was already too late. Around lunchtime, shocking news came in. Deputy Minister, Samsung has officially announced the construction of a new plant in Poland. What? Investment of 3 billion euros, employing 50,000 people. 50,000, that's almost twice the scale of what we offered. On TV, the Polish Prime Minister was shown shaking hands with the Samsung chairman, laughing angrily. Poland is going to be Korea's most trusted partner. The Prime Minister's words hit me like a dagger. By the afternoon, the stock market was in full panic. The market plunged 5%. Point values hit an all-time low. Foreign investors started pulling out even faster. When I got back to the finance office, the staff were in a frenzy. Deputy Minister, the point values keep dropping. We need to step in urgently. We had to release foreign reserves, but that was just the beginning. At 3 p.m., representatives from Samsung's partner companies flooded in. Deputy Minister, what are we supposed to do now? One representative asked, almost in tears. Samsung made up 90% of their orders. Next month, I don't even think we can pay our employees' salaries. The government will come up with support measures, I said. What good is support if there's no work? Another representative shouted, how are our 300 employees supposed to live? How are their kids supposed to keep going? I couldn't say a word. Their despair was just too raw. Emergency meeting at 6 p.m. They held a press conference. The government expressed regret over Samsung's sudden decision to pull out. Reporters bombarded them with questions. Deputy Minister, how many people will lose their jobs if Samsung leaves? Isn't this caused by the government's harsh regulations? Is it true that Chinese companies will replace them? These were questions they couldn't answer. That evening, the mood in God was like a funeral. Workers gathered in front of City Hall. Give us back our jobs. What has the government done? What did we do wrong? This time, it was real anger from the citizens. It was completely different from the environmental protests a few days earlier. It was a genuine mix of desperation and rage. On the news, experts came on and gave their forecasts. 15,000 direct job losses. 15,000 indirect, at least 30,000 people losing work overall. The hit to the local economy is expected to be over 1 trillion forints a year. There will also be major disruptions to the electric car battery supply chain. This will even hurt Hungary's national credit rating. On the drive home, another call came. Peter, how are we going to handle this? I was a wreck. Normally, I had no confidence left at all. What happened with CATL? I can't get in touch with them. Suddenly, they put the investment review on hold, saying the political risks are too high. My head was spinning. If even a Chinese company is turning its back on us, I didn't get a wink of sleep that night. Outside my window, the lights at the Samsung plant were going out one by one. What have I done? At 3 a.m., one thought suddenly hit me: all of this happened way too fast, way too systematically. Like someone had scripted it all out. But that was later. For now, the priority was stopping the flood of disasters. The real hell started the next day. Just a week after announcing the withdrawal, everything began collapsing way faster than expected. Sir, 15 of our first-tier suppliers filed for closure today, my assistant reported Monday morning. It was shocking. Already 15, and more tomorrow. They just can't hang on anymore. We can't even reach the second and third-tier suppliers. There are too many. I stared out the office window. The street scene looked eerie. Normally, this time would be packed with people heading to work, but it was quiet. The mayor showed up. Mayor Zoltan came in. He looked like a completely different person compared to just a month ago. His eyes were bloodshot and his face looked gaunt. Peter, our city is dying, he said. This morning alone, 500 people applied for unemployment benefits. Zoltan threw a stack of papers on the desk. What's this? It's a list of suicide attempts. Just yesterday, there were 12. All of them heads of households. Heads of households? My heart just sank. I never thought unemployment, which I only knew as a number, could be such a brutal reality. One of them was even one of our city hall employees. His wife worked at Samsung. Zoltan's voice trembled. After 15 years, they finally bought a house. They took out a loan, and now they're about to lose both their home and jobs. Mayor, the government needs to come up with a plan, some kind of solution. Zoltan scoffed. This disaster was created by them. What kind of solution could there be? At lunchtime, I went to check out the factory district myself. It was devastating. The main gate of the Chamshung factory was tightly shut, with only a few security guards around. I was just standing there all alone. Nobody comes here anymore. The older security guard was smoking a cigarette and said, "Where has everyone gone?" The Korean staff already left. And the Hungarian employees just come by every day to see if the doors are open. It's heartbreaking, you never know. As the deputy minister knows, working here was a matter of pride. This was the best factory in Europe, so the situation around here is even worse. The place was full of notices about closures and leases. The cafeteria, which used to be packed at lunchtime, felt like a ghost town. I stopped by a longtime favorite restaurant, and the owner was on the verge of tears. It's over. Today's the last day we're open, he said. Last day? We used to get 300 customers a day, now less than 10 show up. I can't even pay the rent. The government offered some support, but the owner laughed bitterly. What good is that if there's no one to come? The pub owner came out and complained too. My son worked at Samsung, but now he has to move to Poland. Our family's going to be scattered everywhere. On my way back, I stopped by a real estate office. I asked, how are house prices these days? The agent just said, don't even get me started. It's a total crash. A total crash. The broker's boss let out a deep sigh. How much has it dropped? 40%. And that's only if there are buyers right now. No one wants to buy. Is it really that bad? Deputy Minister, take a look at this. He showed me the computer screen. The listings are overflowing. All of these just came out this week. So everyone's getting ready to leave? Where are they going? To the suburbs or straight abroad? There's no future here. When I got back to the office, even worse news was waiting. Deputy Minister, tax revenue is dropping sharply. The finance director reported with a serious look. If you add up corporate taxes, income taxes, and levies from Samsung alone, that's 40% of the total tax revenue. 40%, an unbelievable number. And it's even higher if you include local taxes. The city is basically bankrupt. So the city budget might not even cover public servants' salaries. All public projects will have to be halted. My head was spinning. I never realized one company leaving could have such a huge ripple effect. Then, in the afternoon, even more shocking news came in. Deputy Minister, other foreign companies are also getting nervous. The head of the industry department gave an urgent report. What's going on? 2 German car parts manufacturers were about to review their investment plans. And a Japanese electronics company even cancelled their contracts. Why? Hungary's reputation as an anti-business country has spread. The political risks are so high that things are falling apart like dominoes. Minister, we've just gotten word from headquarters. What did they say? They're going to reassess Hungary's investment environment. They're also reconsidering the grants for the Grindel project. How much money are we talking about? 5 billion euros. 5 billion euros, that's about 7.5 trillion won, about to go up in smoke. By evening, all the news was grim. A chain of Samsung suppliers went bankrupt. More than 50 places shut down just this week. The failure rate hit 20%. Hungary's credit rating faces a downgrade. And there are worries about supply disruptions for European electric car batteries, putting automakers on edge. Then a shocking scene came up: a worker from a Samsung factory being interviewed. He said, I've worked faithfully for 15 years. I have 3 kids and my wife worked at a partner company, but now we're both out of jobs. The man was choking up and couldn't find the words. We trusted the government. What did we do wrong? Why do we have to pay the price? Without realizing it, my eyes welled up. That night, an emergency meeting was held at the Prime Minister's office. The PM shouted at Peter, go meet Samsung immediately, even if you have to kneel. We'd already tried contacting them, but they refused. Then go to Korea yourself. Meet the president or whoever and sort this out. But the PM slammed the table, enough with buts. The country is falling apart. Find a solution now. The Minister of Economy reported, Prime Minister, there's a bigger problem. What now? We said Chinese companies would fill Samsung's void, but CATL pulled out. They said the political risks are too high. Seeing what we did to Samsung, the PM went pale. So no one's coming? At least for now, that seems to be the case. Heavy silence filled the room. After the meeting, as I was leaving, Vilas grabbed me. Peter, we're in deep trouble. The confidence he usually had was nowhere to be found. There wasn't any. So now, what mistake did I make? CATL was confirmed, and Beraz, did he promise something to someone? Beraz avoided eye contact. Let's talk about that later. First, we need to secure Samsung. We have to do whatever it takes. But it was already too late. Samsung had officially announced the construction of a new factory in Poland. The investment was 3 billion euros. Employment for 50,000 people. That's twice the size of what we had planned. The front page showed the Polish Prime Minister smiling brightly, shaking hands with Samsung's chairman. When I got home and watched the news, there were interviews with citizens. The government abandoned us. Give us our jobs back. One woman was crying out, my husband lost his job and drinks every day. We had to pull our kids out of their academies. Is this what kind of country this is? Another interview, we bought a house with 20 years of savings, but now it's worthless. We can't even pay back the loans. Half the shops in our neighborhood have closed. This place is a ghost town. That's when I realized, what we tore down wasn't just a factory. It was the livelihood of tens of thousands of families. It was the future of a city and of a whole country. It was all about trust. Looking out the window at dawn, I could see the Samsung factory in the distance. It was completely dark. It felt like a dead city. What the hell had we really done? Suddenly, a strange thought hit me. Everything had happened so systematically and so fast. The sudden appearance of environmental groups. The media's coordinated attack. Anonymous tips. It all seemed like someone had planned it on purpose. But that was something to think about later. For now, we had to save a country that was falling apart. The next day, I made a serious decision. Looking at the ruined factory, I felt something was off. A month after the withdrawal announcement, I stood in front of the empty Samsung factory. The place that used to never turn off its lights now felt like a massive grave. The only thing hanging on the main gate was a sign that said for sale. Sir, what are you doing here? An older guard came up to me. I recognized him from before. Just thinking, I said. I'm quitting next week anyway. No point in holding on. The guard gave a lonely smile. How long have you been here, sir? Have you been working here? For 12 years. I've been here since they built the factory. So you must know this place well, what they make here. Of course. It's not just any battery. It was the heart of electric cars in Europe. The security guard lit a cigarette and continued talking. BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Volkswagen, they all used batteries made here. The quality was top-notch. Was it really that important? Just last year, Chairman Yu came in person. Want to know what he said? What did he say? He called this place the core of Europe's Green Deal. To hit carbon neutrality by 2030, the batteries made here are absolutely essential. It hit me right in the chest. But now it's all over. They moved everything to Poland. The guard put out his cigarette and walked away. I went back to the office and dug through some files. I found a bunch of facts I hadn't known before. I found a status report on Samsung SDI's factory in Hungary. Annual production capacity enough batteries for 500,000 electric cars. Annual export revenue 20 billion euros. R&D center with 500 engineers. Partnerships with 10 universities in Hungary's mountainous regions. Scholarships for 1,000 students every year. And 5 billion patent points filed annually. Are you telling me those 200 cases were real? What shocked me even more was the tech transfer details. They train 300 Hungarian engineers every year, and the use of local parts goes up by 40% annually. The tech transfer program covers dozens of fields. The place we dismissed as just an assembly plant was actually a treasure trove of technology. What have we lost? I muttered to myself. Just then, the secretary rushed in. Vice Minister, I found something strange. What is it? That anonymous tip we got. The person who reported the operation at Moore. No matter how much we traced it, we couldn't find them. It was a fake email account, and the IP was masked through multiple layers. Did they use a proxy or something? Looks like it. Then the secretary lowered her voice. We also looked into donations from environmental groups. Most of the money came from overseas accounts. Where overseas? Hong Kong, Singapore, Cayman Islands. Places that are hard to track. A chill ran down my spine. Did you check the head of Green Hungary? Yes, and that's weird too. This person suddenly appeared last year and has almost no background. The puzzle pieces were starting to come together. The media coverage was weird too. It was way too coordinated. Yeah, that's right. Even back then, I thought something was off. Vice Minister, maybe. I told my secretary to stop me. Don't talk about this here. Let's step outside. So we went out and kept talking on a bench in the government building park. I asked my secretary, be honest, do you think all this is just a coincidence? No, she said. I think someone planned it. Who? Why? I don't know. A few days later, I found out something even more shocking. The vice minister met with a Polish government official. The foreign ministry staff cautiously told me, so they've been preparing to bring Samsung in since last year. Long before we even started pressuring them. What? They've already secured the factory site and set up infrastructure. It's like they knew we were going to push Samsung out. My head was spinning. This wasn't just a coincidence. That night, I went home and reorganized all the info. Around last fall, Chinese battery companies announced their expansion into Europe. Environmental groups like Green Hungary popped up. And by winter, we had a priority investment area. The shutdown started in spring and Moore was running the tip-offs. By summer, Samsung pulled out. It was perfect timing. The next day, I met Director Kim, a former Samsung exec. He didn't go back to Korea but stayed at Budapest. Thanks for meeting me, Director Kim. So, what's the reason for this now? His voice was cold, but I was just grateful he agreed to meet. I'm really sorry. We made a huge mistake. Director Kim laughed. It was planned, wasn't it? I want to ask you something. Is there a chance other countries or companies were involved in this? Director Kim's expression changed. So you're just realizing that now? What do you mean? Director, do you know about the recent moves by Chinese battery companies? I heard CATL is preparing to enter Europe. It's not just preparing, they've already started. But what do you think was the biggest obstacle? No way. Yeah, it was Samsung. Because their tech and quality were unbeatable. Director Kim took a sip of coffee and continued. Poland and the Czech Republic faced similar pressure. Really? Environmental protests, media attacks, tighter regulations, it was the same pattern. But why there? It's simple. They recognized the actor, and they handled it wisely. We were the only ones fooled. We weren't fooled. Director Kim said sharply, we were used. Our arrogance was taken advantage of. That hit me like a dagger to the heart. So, what do we do now? Well, once trust is broken, it's hard to fix, especially like this. Isn't there still a way? Director Kim thought for a long time and then said, there is one. What is it? To reveal the truth, the whole truth, and sincerely apologize. But we need evidence. It's not too late yet. But you have to be prepared. Because if the truth comes out, someone has to take responsibility. On the way back, I had a lot on my mind. We almost ruined our country with our own hands, falling for someone else's scheme. That night, I made up my mind. I have to reveal the truth. It might be the last thing I can do for this country. I learned even more shocking facts during secret talks with Korea. Director Kim and I. The day after we met, I got an unexpected message. Vice Minister, the Korean embassy suggested an unofficial meeting. I wanted to hold on to even a sliver of hope. So, I accepted right away. The person I met at the secret location was Director Park. I heard he had left, but he was still at the Budapest office. Director Park, I can't believe we're meeting again like this. Vice Minister Peter, since you're short on time, I'll get straight to the point. His expression was softer than before. It's not too late yet. Really? But they've already announced the withdrawal. There are suggestions from headquarters to reconsider. It takes 2 years to build the factory in Poland. The production gap during that time is the real problem. I saw a glimmer of hope. So, what should we do? First, you need to know the truth. Park pulled out a tablet. What's this? It's pressure materials that Poland and the Czech Republic received. Vice Minister, it's the exact same pattern I went through. Looking at the documents gave me chills. Environmental group protests, media attacks, stricter regulations. It was a carbon copy. But how did they manage it? It's simple, they knew the players. Director Park then. They showed me the document. It's a Chinese government paper outlining CATL's strategy for the European market. It's a 5-year plan. Reading it was shocking. Step 1, support local environmental groups. Step 2, shape public opinion. Step 3, push for regulatory pressure. Step 4, force competitors to pull out. Step 5, enter the market. We got completely played. That's why Poland and the Czech Republic were different. They shared info with us. But why not with us? Minister, I never heard anything. They actually treated us like enemies. It was embarrassing. Really embarrassing. So, it's restricted now. Director Park said seriously, if the Hungarian government sincerely apologizes and gives solid guarantees, we're willing to reconsider. What kind of guarantees? First, the Prime Minister has to visit Korea personally and offer an official apology. The PM himself. Second, a special law needs to be passed to freeze taxes and regulations for the next 10 years. Third, the whole incident needs to be transparently investigated and the findings made public. These weren't easy demands, especially the PM's official apology. That's a huge political burden. Anything else? Something personal? Here's a heads up, Deputy Minister Peter, be careful. What do you mean? The people involved in this won't just sit back and do nothing. Especially those connected to China. You mean Velas? Director Park nodded. Start by investigating everyone who contacted him from the beginning. You'll uncover some shocking stuff. On the way back, I kept thinking, was Velas really connected to China from the very start? As soon as I got to the office, I ordered a covert investigation. Look into Velas's activities over the past year, focusing on his overseas trips and the people he met. A few days later, a shocking report came in. Deputy Minister, you need to see this. What is it? Velas visited China 4 times last year. None of those trips were on the official schedule. Every time he met with CATL executives. Also, there's evidence of large sums being deposited into a Swiss bank account. We secured the bank records as proof. Now everything's clear. We've been trapped from the very beginning. I reported this to the Prime Minister. Sir, Samsung is considering a conditional comeback. Is that true? What's the deal? Explain the conditions. The Prime Minister's face hardened. He said I had to go to Korea myself and apologize. Yes, and there's someone involved in this whole mess. I reported everything I found out. Wait, China was involved? Belarus was tangled up from the start. The Prime Minister clenched his fist. Prime Minister, you traitorous fool, now you have to decide. Are you going to reveal the truth and apologize, or just watch the country fall apart? A long silence followed. All right, I'll go to Korea. Wise decision, but you better be prepared. Someone's gotta take responsibility for this. I know. That night, Belarus was arrested. Charges leaking state secrets and bribery. Peter, you sold me out, Belarus shouted as they took him away. You're an accomplice too. You're just the same. He wasn't entirely wrong. I was arrogant and I made mistakes. But I had to fix it, no matter what. A week later, the Prime Minister's plan was set. Before I left, he said to me, Peter, this is your last chance. You have to make it work. All right, I'll do my best. You should come along too. Since I started this, I'm the one who should finish it. So, I headed to Korea with the Prime Minister. On the plane to Seoul, which I was flying on for the first time, I had a lot on my mind. How would it feel to bow your head to a place you once looked down on as just a small country? But this was the right thing to do. Only now did I realize who my real friends were. Let's start the government investigation. Shocking truths came to light. The day after arriving in Seoul, a meeting was held at the Korean government building. Welcome, Prime Minister of Hungary, said the Korean Minister of Industry, who greeted us politely but with a certain distance. Samsung's top executives were also at the meeting. The Prime Minister began reading his prepared speech. First, I sincerely apologize. Our arrogance and prejudice almost cost us a valuable partner. After the interpreter finished, the room fell silent. Especially when he revealed that this whole incident was a deliberate scheme by outside forces and admitted that we had been used by them. At that moment, the expressions on the Korean side subtly changed. The Samsung vice chairman, I asked, can you explain exactly what kind of scheme this was? I pulled out the materials I had prepared. CATL from China was involved in an organized way. One by one, I presented the evidence support for environmental groups, media manipulation, even bribery of our government's top officials. We looked into the source of the Green Hungary donations, records of Chinese ads bought by media outlets, Velas's Swiss accounts, Chinese strategic documents. The Korean side carefully reviewed all the data. Interesting, said the Minister of Industry. Actually, we've got similar info. The same pattern's been found in other European countries too. So if you knew, it'd be a lie to say you didn't, I said. But Hungary fell right into the trap themselves, he replied. We warned them, but they had no defense because it was true. We continued the informal chat over lunch. The Vice Minister, Park Sang-mu, approached. Now that you know the truth, I'll be more upfront with you. Please, I said. China has been using this strategy for 5 years, starting in Southeast Asia and spreading to Europe. Everyone knows this, but it's hard to catch hard proof, and even if they do, China. People are too scared of the market to speak up. There must be a lot of countries getting fooled like us. Hungary's actually been pretty lucky. Lucky? Our economy's been wrecked, but at least we learned something. Some countries don't realize it until it's too late. The afternoon meeting was with me. The Samsung vice chairman said, honestly, deciding to come back to Hungary isn't easy. I get it. Trust was broken and the investment climate got worse. But there's hope. We can't just give up on the European market. Plus, Hungary's workforce and infrastructure are too valuable. Then we'll consider a phased return, I said. But there are conditions. The conditions were tough: 1. A special law securing a 10-year tax freeze, 2. Investment protection agreements, 3. Setting up an electricity council, 4. Establishing a Hungary-Korea Tech Cooperation Center. The most important point, the vice chairman stressed, this can't happen again. Whether it's China or anyone else, we can't be shaken by outside pressure. I promise, I said. The Prime Minister bowed his head. After the talks, we headed home. On the plane, the Prime Minister said, Peter, we're going home. There's gonna be a lot to handle once this gets out. I know that. The media will crucify us, and the opposition will launch a full-scale attack. I'm prepared for that. Still, I did the right thing. I saved the country. The storm started the moment I got back to Budapest. Prime Minister, there's controversy over backdoor diplomacy. Hungary, a small country, forced to bow its head. The China conspiracy theory is just an excuse. But at the same time, there was also public support. Thankfully, Samsung's coming back. If it means more jobs, a little pride is nothing. I respect the courage to reveal the truth. And now we have the smoking gun. Deputy Minister, this is huge. The head of the investigation team just rushed in from Hyungan. What's going on? These documents were found at Deputy Minister Velas's house. Looking at them, I was shocked. Project Dragon, a plan to dominate the European battery market. A secret document jointly created by the Chinese government and CATL. Primary goal: push Korean companies out. Secondary goal: pressure Japanese companies. Third goal: capture 70% of the European market. Budget $5 billion. Timeline 2023 to 2028. If this is real, it's for real. The Chinese side's seal is on it. Now everything. The truth came out. The next day, the government released all the documents. The Hungarian government exposed the full extent of China's espionage. Shocking Project Dragon files showed that all of Europe was the target. Europe was flipped upside down. Similar cases started popping up in Germany, France, and Italy. A week later, an emergency meeting was called. This is an economic war. We need a joint response. Investment reviews must be tightened. Ironically, Hungary became the hero for being the first country to reveal the truth. But I still felt ashamed. If it weren't for our arrogance, none of this would have happened. It was time to learn a real lesson. A month after Project Dragon was exposed, Europe had changed completely. Why? Because foreign investment screenings were drastically tightened. Germany and France formed a battery alliance, and Chinese companies' investments in Europe were heavily restricted. Ironically, Hungary became a pioneer, bearing the biggest damage but also being the first to reveal the truth. And as promised, Samsung started coming back. Today, Samsung SDI declared the reopening of its plant in Hungary. The press conference was really emotional. In the first phase, they rehired 5,000 people and plan to increase that to 10,000 by next year. Director Park announced this, but it wasn't like before. They decided to restore only 50% of the total scale and leave the rest in Poland as is. Trust, once broken, doesn't fully come back. What Director Park told me was true. Still, there was hope. The Korea-Hungary Technology Cooperation Center opened. When I attended the opening ceremony, I saw something amazing. Hungarian youths were learning battery technology from Korean engineers. This is true cooperation. One trainee said, "Before, we just assembled parts as told, but now we're learning why things work the way they do. The Korean teachers teach us really hard, without hiding any techniques." Another student added, "They told us we're not competitors but partners." It was really touching. This is what we should have done from the start. I met Drive Kim, the center director. Dr. Kim, is the training going well with the Hungarian youth? They're really passionate. They've got a strong will to learn, so teaching them feels rewarding. Aren't you worried about technology leaks? Dr. Kim laughed. Deputy Minister, technology needs to be shared to progress. If you hide it, it just rots. But real competitiveness isn't the technology itself, it's the system that runs it. And trust. That really hit home. 6 months later, changes started to show. Goat City was buzzing again. Shops that had closed one by one started reopening, and the streets got busier. The owner of the deputy minister's regular restaurant greeted him warmly. "Long time no see. How's business? Back on track?" "Yeah, it's coming back." With Samsung employees returning, more customers showed up. That's a relief. This whole experience taught us a big lesson: how connected we all are. That was true, but the scars remained. Half of the partners who shut down never came back, and many talented people left. It'll take at least 10 years to fully recover. The Economic Institute's report was blunt. Still, the direction was right. Chinese companies kept trying to get in, but things were different now. At BUID, once again, they put investment restrictions in place. The terms were still good, of course, but the key technology would stay in China and they'd only do simple assembly here. We politely declined. Now we've gotten smarter. We chose long-term partnerships over quick profits. A year later, we heard unexpected news: CATL gave up on entering Europe. After Project Dragon was exposed, all of Europe went on high alert. Their image took a huge hit. Ironically, their whole strategy depended on keeping things secret, but when we blew the whistle, it all fell apart. Lastly, I licensed Varaz. I met him in prison. He looked worn out. "Do you regret it?" "Every single day." "Why did you do it?" Varaz gave a bitter smile. "I thought I was aiming for something bigger. I believed teaming up with China was smart. How did that turn out? I was the fool, used and thrown away. But I did learn one thing. As I finished my sentence and walked out, I realized who my real partners were. In the rivalry between nations, we sometimes get played. But we need the wisdom to tell who's truly a friend and who's the real enemy behind all the cheap temptations. You've got to see the real intention behind it all. That's the biggest lesson this whole thing left us with. Samsung hasn't fully bounced back yet. But we gained something way more important: humility, wisdom, and a true sense of partnership. That evening, when we looked at the Samsung factory, the lights were back on. Not like before, but they were on. It was only half a success, but we were grateful just for that. Compared to how things could have gone, it was a miracle. Now, I'm retired. There's something I always tell the younger generation: pride is the start of disaster, and humility is the start of wisdom. And one more thing: no country is small, only small-minded people are. You've just heard a shocking confession from a Hungarian government official. What did you think about how the country almost collapsed because they underestimated a small nation's companies? On top of that, the huge conspiracy hidden behind the scenes. It really feels like the international community is a jungle where no one knows what's coming next. If you want to share the lesson from this story with others, please share this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Please look forward to even more amazing stories next time. This has been Korea Wonderful.